My name is Taylor Johnson, and for this project, I chose the Rammstein Stadium Tour. I chose this one because I love metal music, and I've always heard that Rammstein has gigantic, crazy shows. And they've had a history of this for a long time, though they've actually never done a stadium tour until now. And that brought along its own challenges. And I thought they would have brought in a lot of gear, so I thought that would have been perfect for this project. Now, about the band a little bit. So, there's 6 members, and they've been around for quite a long time. In the 90s, they really made their name in terms of performance, even though there was some safety issues, but they've been known for their fiery performances for many, many years. And if you want to know who's who, I have this in the slides. So this specific tour was for their album Zeit. I mean, I'm not exactly sure how it's supposed to be pronounced, but it ran from May 2019 to July 2024, and they actually took a break for a little bit during that time span due to COVID, so they actually couldn't tour during that time. So that took like a year off that tour. And then they sold over 6 million tickets, over 141 shows, and $500 million gross. And that's a lot of money. There's 5 legs, and over that time span, they were able to travel to over 22 countries. So, knowing that, there was definitely a lot of paperwork for both passports of the band and also the equipment. And we're going to talk about equipment in a second. So, this is actually a time lapse of the show setup. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but I stadium here. Paneling, they got to do this because this is a field. So they got to have like a base to put everything on. It's going to be really heavy too. There's all the trucks. They're going to start putting in the steel. These are all the bases for stuff. They can't ceiling mount anything, so that's what all this is for, and it's also the structure of the stage. Now they're putting in the substage. They're building some of the skeleton as well. There's the delay towers they're building. They're loading in production gear. There's a lot of trucks for this one. And there's some of the stage designs. Those lighting fixtures were super cool. And this took about a week to do, just from the beginning to the end. It's beautiful. So the stage itself took over $6 million to build. It took about a week to set up, 60 hours, hundreds of people on site. It's a lot of work. And there's actually over 90 trucks too. And the reason for that is because there's actually 2 sets of steels, which is the foundation of the structure. And there was over 1,350 tons of gear. And this tour was so big, and the cities were kind of far apart, so they had to set up steel in 2 places at once so that they can load the production gear at one stage, and as soon as that is over, they'll send it over to the next city. And the stage is huge too. It's 200 feet long, 120 feet high, and 100 feet deep. So we're going to talk about logistics first because I found it extremely impressive. So on the tour itself, there was over 100 people, like actually hired to go on the road with them. And for local crew, there was over 150 people. And they hired a lot of local hands as well. I've been in that position, and it's just impressive how they were able to do this. So to put up the steels, it took like 3 days approximately, which there's over 20 trucks of just steel. For production, it took 1.5 days approximately to set up lighting, video, audio, those types of things. And that's about 50 trucks of gear, which is quite impressive. And to load out all this production takes about 4 hours. So it's after all these tour dates and years, it was a well-oiled machine. And Bjorn Harder was a stage manager, and he helped with the logistics of this. And Klaus Hoffman helped with site coordination and built the steel as well. And for building steel, what they have to do is put down paneling, especially in stages where there's fields first, and then after that, they'll put the sub deck and also put the steels up. And what actually makes this process take super long is the leveling, because not all stages are completely level. They might have maybe like 1 degree of offness, which they'll have to put like shivs of wood underneath to make sure it's level. Because if you have a little bit of angles that are off, it could make the structure unstable and it could fall. So it's a safety thing as well. So after doing the steels, rigging was set up. So this was so that they can hang all the gear. Flo Jordan was the leader of this, and they had 4 tour riggers in total. They hired some local riggers as well to do the up rigging, so the stuff in the sky. And they were doing the safety checks. So the tour riggers were making sure everything was safe and set up properly. And mainly these guys' jobs was to work with pyro and lighting and automation so that everything could be put up in the sky. And a little bit more about the stage as well. So Stageco and Brilliant Stages, which is now known as Tate Staging, provided the actual structure. So Stageco provided both blue and red steel, which refers to the A and B teams, so the 2 steel stages that were in 2 different cities at once, and the main stage was by Tate. So there was a specific fabric that they used to cover the stage in, which is PUFC fabric, which if you've ever done draping or stuff like that, that's the kind of plastic fabric uh, it's referring to. And there's a lot of weather issues because stadiums have no ceiling, so they really needed to have that to make sure none of the gear got wet, even though it was rated waterproof. And Your Grip is a steel manufacturing company, and that's what the floor was made of. It was like this grid type material so that all the pyro stuff that Rammstein was doing wouldn't catch the stage on fire. And also, it's got grooves in it, so they're able to put like lighting and other things underneath the floor. Now, power was something that's absolutely insane for this show. Absolutely no stadium is equipped for this sort of power requirement. They had to rent about 8 different generators just to power this. Arno Brokmans actually said that it could pretty much power a small village. And he was working with a team of 6 to run all this power. And they had 1 generator as a spare. And all these generators are pretty far away from the actual stage, so they had to run a lot of feeder. And in total, this would be like about 5.28 miles of cable if you were to line every single cable up next to each other. So it's a lot of cabling. The PowerShop.eu, a European company, provided the generators. These are the twin generators, so they're able to power the crazy requirements needed for the show. And I also have a bit of information about the actual power itself. So these are 400 amp 3-phase camlock feeder cables, with ground being the green one, the white one being a neutral, and the other ones being hots. And because it's 3-phase, each cable carries 1 phase of power each. And this is to make sure that power is generated smoothly, so they kind of overlap in terms of uh, power requirements. And it took probably about 1,700 kilovolt uh, of of power requirements for this one. And I have an example of a different generator down here with different specs because the Power Shop did not provide their own specs. So this one would probably be able to power the show as well. And these generators need to burn a lot of diesel fuel. So this one, for example, uh, burns 85 gallons of diesel an hour. And with gas prices today, that would be pretty expensive. More about power. So cable management was huge at this show because there's 65 feeder cables pretty much, and they all got to be lined up. They cannot be all jumbled up. Number one, for time saving purposes, and two, if they're in a circle, they can generate so much heat that they can catch on fire and melt due to induction. Like the electromagnetic field gets it all hot. Um, and here's some cable management. And I will provide a link to the slideshow if you want to check out more links. I have more footage here as well. As for data, Luminex provided all these different data needs with 24 gigacore switches and 70 Ethernet nodes and 60 DMX splitters, which takes one input of DMX and sends it to a lot of outputs. And this picture here is an example of a DMX splitter. Um, and what's special about Luminex is that the software that they use is actually pretty user friendly, so you don't have to really know too much about IT to actually use the system. And another thing that's special is that these are audio video bridging AVB compliant, meaning that data that goes to these systems that is audio or video will be logistically prioritized over anything else over the system so that there's no cuts or lagging issues. And this right here is an example that I found of the stage design. So some terms that I'd like to talk about are the fascia right here, which are these structural elements. Uh, it's a bit hard to visualize what they exactly are, so I have a picture here. And these are the circle pods, which are the lights. The lift, which I'll get into, is down here, and this is the single video panel right there. And then there's a main stage as well. So automation was a big part of the show as well. Hoists by WI Motion were used, and they used their WI VSD SIL3 controllers, which were their latest models at the time. SIL3 is just a safety level, so it's the highest level of safety at the time. And the video wall can be up to 90 feet in the air. It moves up and down a rail system. And also band members can go up and down on a platform as well. That's what I was referring to in that picture in the stage. So a joystick does control the system, and these hoists can actually go pretty fast. So the video wall can go at 50 feet a second, and the platform that holds the band can go at 1 foot a second. And I have a picture of the WI controller here. It looks like one of those controllers that you use to hang motors and make everything go up and down. So a lot of things were controlled by automation: lighting, pyro, some lighting fixtures, the curtains, which are on the delay towers. Those were all controlled by automation. Also, the back wall panels, those 6 panels you see in the back there. Now we're going to talk about video. So, video was not a big part of the show at all. So, the stage design had some SACO 9mm panels, and these ones were special because they had little grids in them so that you can kind of see through them. And there's just one video wall, and it mainly showed the logo or some effects, which were designed by Notch. And these were on the Grand MA2, so all these servers were held through that. The Disguise servers were on the Grand MA2. Solotech did all the video work, so they got the vendors and sold the gear to them. Barco Image Pro was for graphic scale. And all these underlined things here means that there's a link, so I can show you those sites as well. I do have a picture of the Grand MA2, which is shown in a later part in lighting. And this is the 9mm panels. Now we're going to talk about audio. So Solotech, under it was the parent company of SSE Higher, which did the audio for this show. So all the audio was L Acoustics audio, and their packages that they used was K1, K2, Kara, K1 subwoofers, and KS28 subwoofers. And there was so many trucks for this as well. There was 5 just for audio, and there was like 400 speakers too. So Nick Payne was the audio crew chief, and he was overseeing 13 audio tour technicians. So Niels Knecht, I don't know how to pronounce that exactly, he ran stadium acoustic simulations with venue models. So each venue he were at would have a different save file. So he able to calculate the different effects of positioning of speakers. And then he told the PA tech, Andreas Vater, where to put each speaker. And this would make sure that the band sounded really good. Because in stadiums, if you've ever been in one, there's a lot of echo and acoustic buildup in some places where it makes the audio sound really muddy. So it makes it difficult to actually hear the band properly. So after the simulations were ran, angles were given properly so that PA tech can set them up proper. And actually, depending on the venue, there were either 2 or 4 delay towers. So they had enough for 4 delay towers, but they just put up 2 in some places. So here's some of the pictures of the audio gear that they had. So there's the K2, which is just a regular speaker, and the subwoofer is here. So they had 2 main hangs with a lot of stacks. They had some delay hangs, subwoofer hangs, and also ground stacked subwoofers. And to actually control all of these speakers, there was 180 LA12X amplified controllers. And Milan AVB, which is audio video bridging, a different networking company, handled the networking for this. And Avid Venue S6L consoles were used to monitor for monitoring and front of house. Here's some more audio gear. So both the monitoring and front of house control systems were made of the same gear, but there was like 2 sets. So monitoring had 1 set of this gear and front of house had a different set. So there was a 6SL 32D control system, which pretty much like a mixer. There was the engines, which kind of powered all of this. SoundGrid Extreme servers, which had all the Waves plugins on them. So that was pretty cool. And stage boxes with 64 in and outs. So that was a lot to plug everything in. And here's some more audio gear. So up here we have the Venue S6L, but this is the 48D control surface. So this one has more channels, but it pretty much looks the same. You have the K1 as down here. Only really difference is the directivity and the max SPL on these. The Kara 2, the subwoofers that were ground stacked, and then there was also some ARX 2 loudspeakers, which I'm pretty sure were used on the stage itself. And here's a more of the stage design. So last I showed just this main part. So these are the delay types, or towers. So there was 4 of them, and they each have a stack of speakers hanging from the top. And Wonderworks was helping with this design. Now we're going to talk about lighting. Now this has got to be the most detailed part of the show in terms of the amount of gear involved. So there was 13 trucks for this. Nick Barton and 42 local hands helped set this up. The lighting director and operator was Farron Matern, and there was so many different lights that there was even a sub-team just for the Falcon lights, and we're going to talk about that right now. So Thorsten Lockman is the Falcon Lights crew, and Florian Bees was the main one for most of the tour. But these lights right here, these are beam lights, so when they're on, they go straight into the sky, and these were on the back side of the stage. And there was 48 of them, and there was 7,000 watts, And what's also special is that they used an actual xenon bulb, so they were giving that more traditional feel, especially to this industrial stage look that Ramstein wanted. Now, this is another integral lighting part. So, there was over 1,000 fixtures used in this show, and one goal was to highlight the band while also improving the architectural depth. So, this specific part right here, these circular domes, have 40 of Claypaky HYBI K25 fixtures in them, and these lights were such a cool choice because it makes it look like surgical lights when they're pointed downwards onto the band, which can give it that industrial feel. And we're going to see these lights in action after the lighting section, and it looks really good. So more lights that were used are from Claypaky as well. The Cineas Unico, Mythos 2, and Sharpie. So there was 18 Cineas Unico lights, 20 Mythos 2 lights, and those were on the main tower to highlight the height and the depth of that. These were programmed to follow me so that it can track band members. The Sharpie lights were beam lights similar to the Falcon lights, but they were used so that it can give a bit of a contrast to the Falcon lights. And we're also on the B stage. So even more lights. So 44 of the 56 row BMFL LT spotlights were programmed to follow me, so it can also track the band. And Verilight VL6000 beam lights were also used in conjunction with Falcon lights. There was also SGM P10 lights for stage size highlights. And more structural highlights were used with Ayrton Wildsign S25 wash lights for color changes and such. And there was also some flash effects used, like this Hungaro T light. So this has a lot of watts in it. Like the Falcon lights had 7,000. This one is 85,000. So these are crazy bright. And there's some other lights used as well there was less of them, I guess. There's bar lights for horizontal looks as well. And under lighting, LEDs were used a lot. And in the second half of the show, more LEDs were used rather than the regular fixtures because there was multiple inspirations for this show, so this gave it a more futuristic look. So Chroma Q provided a lot of the lighting for this. So Color Force 2s were used, and these 3 different models are just different lengths of the same light pretty much. So those bar LEDs were used. And now to talk about the controls for the lighting. Now for 1,000 lights, you really need a lot of consoles and processing for this. So they had 4 Grand MA2 consoles, and that controlled every single light. And they had 2 backups as well. So, and Stage Tech had a Grand MA2 as well. So an NPU, a networking processing unit, was used to handle all this traffic. And there wasn't just one, there was 15 of them. And there was some 8-port nodes used, which is this last piece of technology here. So it was a very processing heavy show. And here we get to see the lighting in action.